Hey, welcome to or back to BarbieCoProductions. And today, after making baby clothes in the last video I did, I was thinking I need to make some baby accessories as well. Here's one of the Zuru My Mini babies in the onesie I made last video. And here was my attempt at making a baby carrier. Here's how it looks on one of the dolls. And here's the pattern I used to make it. I started with a rectangle that was 9 by 18 centimeters. Then I folded it in half to find a center line. So on one side of the pattern, the length from this center line to the end of the tab is 4.5 centimeters. I come in on both sides in this T kind of shape, which is 2.5 centimeters. Then at the widest point in the middle, I come out 2.7 centimeters from the center line. And this opening at the bottom is 1 centimeter. And the length from the top of the pattern to the opening at the bottom is 6.5 centimeters. And then these pieces are about 12 centimeters long by 1.5 centimeters wide. Starting off with a rectangle of felt big enough to fit the pattern. I use a few pins to hold it in place while I'm cutting it out so it doesn't slip around. Then I carefully cut it out. Remember, you can always take more off. The next task is to refine the shape. Here is how the pattern itself works, and as you can see, this is where the tweaking comes in. I'm starting by taking in this middle part of the pattern from about 2 centimeters to 1.5. Okay, I think this is where I'm gonna leave it. And here is what the measurements in the middle of the shape are currently looking like. Then lastly, I'm taking just a very small amount off the shoulder straps and making this opening at the bottom where the baby's head sits just a little bit wider and a bit more rounded. And here is what the final measurements ended up looking like. For the waistband of the carrier, I'm using this super stretchy black elastic that is 1 centimeter wide. Then I get one of my dolls, measuring how much elastic I'll need. I looked through my basket of thread and found the closest color match, before sewing the two ends together with a slight overlap. Then I finished the stitch on the inside of the elastic circle. Then I use a pin to hold these two tabs in place at the right size for the baby. The next step is to take the elastic and the part where it overlaps, line that up with the center on the front of the baby carrier. And here is where I'm going to sew the two pieces together. Then finishing the stitch, once again on the inside. And here's what it looks like so far. I'm gonna add another stitch here, just so the carrier itself sits a little bit flatter. once again finishing the stitch on the inside. And there we go. I like that a lot better. And here is how the baby sits in it. And while the baby is still in the carrier, I use a few pins to put the shoulder straps in place. I also found this thread color that is just a little bit darker than the felt, which will hopefully mean it will stand out a little bit and add a few details. And once again, I am finishing the stitches on the inside. Now repeat the same process for the other side. And here it is with both sides done. The last thing to do is sew down these two tabs, so I use 2 pins to mark where I'm going to sew on either side. Trying to keep them relatively even. I did one big stitch on either side, so it looked like it was meant to be there. And then, just like the other parts, I finished the stitch on the inside. And lastly, cut off these extra felt pieces, and it's all done. Now just add the baby. and put it on a doll, trying not to stretch the felt. And here it is! Adding her coat back so both her and baby stay warm. But now there's more baby accessories, and a lack of baskets on the shelf. So let's make some more with this woven paper ribbon. I start by getting something to mold the shape around. In this case I'm using a glue bottle, but you can use anything. I measure off a piece the correct size, and cut it off with just a little bit extra. Then I fold it in half so it's the right height and a little bit less see-through. Wrap it around the glue bottle again and glue the ends down. Then I use a couple of stainless steel pegs to hold everything in place as it dries. And once it's dry enough, I add some glue to the open end on the bottom and stick it to another square of the paper ribbon. And once that is fairly dry, I cut off the excess. Then I add some more glue and repeat the process. Once that's dry, I repeat the process of cutting off the excess. And leaving it to fully dry. For this, I'm using a thicker felt that holds its shape quite well. Then I measure the size of one of these cubbies, which is where I want to put the basket. According to those measurements, I cut out 4 pieces, 2 sides as well as a front and a back. I start by taking one of the sides and gluing the front piece on. Then I repeat the process for the back and the other side. Now I'm gonna let this sit and dry for a minute. And once that's a bit more dry, I add some more glue around the bottom and stick it to another piece of felt. This will become the base. Then once again, let it dry. And once it's dry, cut off the extra felt. And it's done! Lastly, I'm going to use a scrap of the paper ribbon that I just made the baskets out of to make a handle. I cut off a small piece before folding it, and gluing it in place. And once the glue is dry, I bend the handle into a handle shape. And then I glue it to the front of the basket. Trying to keep it centered. And now the basket is all done. A quick test to make sure Barbie's hand fits in the handle. Now that is much better. But that is the end of today's video. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to let me know in the comments down below, or check out my community tab where I post regular behind the scenes pictures and updates. Bye! Bye!